Movies can be great to motivate us to take action and do something. They can be inspiring. They can help us change directions. They can help us get more done. Not when you just veg out and just watch movies 24/7. No, I'm not talking about doing that in front of the television. I'm talking about watching inspirational, motivating films that pump you up to make you take action on things that you want to accomplish. That's what we're going to talk a little bit about on Coffee with Alain today. I have one of my Rocky mugs here because the Rocky movies definitely have motivated me and millions of other people throughout the years. I mean, what a franchise. Started in 1976, got the Academy Award for Best Picture. And then they've just recently did Creed 3, which was the first Rocky movie that didn't have Sylvester Stallone as Rocky, but I still like to consider the Creed movies part of that franchise since he was in the first two. But what a great film franchise, and that's why I have several Rocky mugs, and finally got to see the Rocky statue when my daughter started to go to school in Philly. There were cheaper ways for me to go see the statue, but hey, it was all working out great. Good morning, Kellen. Appreciate you being here. Hope you're having a fantastic Friday morning. So, what movies have motivated you? Obviously, Rocky movies have motivated me in my life at different times, from that very first movie right on up through all of them, even the Creed movies. But sometimes I've been too influenced by movies. It was watching Sylvester Stallone again in First Blood that made me go down to the Army recruiter and say, I want to get into Special Forces. At the time, you could not enlist into Special Forces on your first enlistment in the 80s. So the best the recruiter could do is get me into the 82nd Airborne Division. And then he said, you'll be at Bragg, and then you can do a Special Forces packet for when you re-enlist. That's how you had to do it back then. I went in and did a lot, and then I decided to get out. I was toying with it. Should I re-enlist and put an SF packet in? And then I ended up just getting out and going to college to do something different. But a funny thing about movies, while I was stationed at First Bragg, the first Lethal Weapon came out. Loved it. Saw it several times in the movie theater. When I ETS'd, end of term of service of the military, my final deployment was South Korea. And when you get out of the Army from South Korea, you have to go to San Francisco, at least you did at that time, to Presidio to do your final out processing. And a group of us showed up, and it was a Friday, couldn't do anything. So we had to spend the weekend there at San Francisco at Presidio to do our final out processing on Monday. And then we'd all fly home to our different places where we were going. That weekend went to two different movies in San Francisco. One was Lethal Weapon 2, and the other was the second Batman with Michael Keaton back then. Lethal Weapon 2. I just got out of the Army. What do I want to do? Go to Los Angeles, apply for the Los Angeles Police Department, which I did. I took the test. It was on the hiring list. But then an Army buddy of mine, his father was retired Los Angeles Fire Department. And he sat me down and said, here's what we can do to make sure you get hired if you really want to, after I explained some things. And after talking with him and learning about different things, I decided my best course of action would be go to college, get my college degree. Then if I still wanted to go back into law enforcement, I could at that time. And that was a pretty good decision because I was in college when the Randy King and all the riots and all of that kind of stuff happened. And just glad that I was not down there when the riots and all that happened. I would have been a very young police officer in that big quagmire of a mess that they had in Los Angeles. So my Army buddy, Mike's, his dad, saved me a little bit there. Dixon says, I was in the city of brotherly love last weekend, so close to Voorhees, New Jersey. Nice. I actually like that city. I mean, there's some really cool history and things there. So I'm glad that my daughter's going to school there and I get to go visit once in a while, because when we go visit her, we see different parts of the city and historical things. And it's a neat city. A lot of history back east that you can see pretty close to each other that we don't have out here in the West when everything's so big and broad. I mean, you can put several of those little eastern states into Montana. People sometimes think, wow, I mean, how far is the drive? It's like, I can get in the car and drive 500 miles and still be in Montana, when I'm heading out east. I mean, and I can drive 100 miles the other direction. So, I mean, you could, if you come in from one side and go out the other, it's over 600 miles of driving just to get across the state. You get out east and you go 600 miles, you've hit a whole bunch of states. A little bit kind of different back there. And sometimes it's cool to go visit those places. Back to movies. What are movies that have inspired you? And what movies do you watch over again to get inspiration? The Rockies are definitely on the list for me. I've watched them multiple times and at different times in my life, watching them to get motivated to do something. I talked a month or so ago about meeting Eric Roberts because he was in a movie that motivated me to get back into training back when Best of the Best came out. I had just gotten out of the Army and I had done the Los Angeles Police Department interview and then changed my mind to go to college, but I was waiting to get into college and living in Helena. So I had just arrived at Helena, living there until I was going to move to Missoula for school, and watched Best of the Best. And it got me off the couch to go find an instructor in Helena and get back to training, because I hadn't been training as I was moving around after getting out of the Army. And so that movie motivated me to get back into training. Met an instructor that I still keep in contact with today. It's been over 30 years and we're still in touch. He no longer lives in Montana, so I can't visit as easily, but it helped my path of martial arts. And that movie was motivating for that. And I got to tell Eric Roberts that story, when I met him last month, and it was sort of cool to talk about that. And he said he was really glad that it did motivate me into training. And we talked about the movie and some of the other actors in the movie and other movie stuff. But I just find that you can use film, you can use TV, not just watch and vegetate and let it use you. Don't let movies and TV control you and keep you from doing the important things you want to do. But you can use them for education if you're watching educational shows, enjoyment. Sometimes we just need to get loose and enjoy and have a laugh or a cry or whatever kind of thing you want to enjoy for a film. And other times we can use them to pump ourselves up and motivate us to go do great things. So think about the movies or television that can do that for you and use them selectively to empower your life and get more out of your life. With that, I want to tell everybody, make it a fabulous, fantastic Friday. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk about a couple books. Until then, be sure to sign up for the newsletter if you haven't yet, because it'll go out this weekend. And I want to make sure that you get that information to help you stay safe, enjoy life, and be exceptional.